Hey everyone, so for the last of my postpartum series in the month of October, I want to talk about weight gain and weight loss during pregnancy and during that postpartum time. So I thought it was a really interesting topic just because I felt like I learned a lot about weight gain and weight loss during pregnancy and postpartum, and I wanted to share with you a little bit of expectation versus reality. So here we go. Now, the first thing in terms of how much weight you're supposed to gain during pregnancy, and this is what came from my doctor. And this is the same thing that I've seen from the CDC, March of Dimes, a bunch of different websites, is that somebody who's in a normal weight range, and normal is classified by my doctor by BMI, and I've actually heard that some people believe that BMI is sort of an outdated way to measure like a height to weight ratio. So anyway, there's that. But what my doctor told me was that for my weight and height, I should gain between 25 and 35 pounds. So in terms of expectation, I thought, yeah, I'll be able to do that. That's fine, 25 to 35 pounds. Reality was that I gained 45 pounds. So I want to break this down by trimester, because the first trimester, you're supposed to gain like a few pounds. I've seen different ranges, like 1 to 4, 1 to 5. I gained 7 in my first trimester, and I was really nauseous and just like, I felt pretty terrible early on. And so like I just totally gave myself free range to eat whatever I wanted as long as I could. And some days this was hard. Swallow a vitamin. That was even hard some days. And drink enough water. I was like, whatever you can keep down, eat. So it wasn't always the healthiest. But you know what? In the end, I just did what I had to do to get through that first trimester, and I gained 7 pounds. So that was a little bit above. Now, I also believe that I read, and I'd have to go back and check this, that during the second and the third trimesters, it's like 1 to 2 pounds a week, depending on, might be a little bit less or a little bit more depending. But my second trimester, I gained 23 pounds. So that was like way over. Now, one particular doctor's appointment, I had a doctor who's like, his bedside manner left something to be desired, let's say that. And I will say this, I found that I love my OBGYN practice, like I think they're amazing, but I have found that when you go and you see a different doctor every week, like 8 or 9 doctors, the question is not, do I love all of these doctors? It's, do I trust them? And so there wasn't a single doctor in my practice that I was like, I don't trust you to deliver my baby. I trust everybody wholeheartedly. But there were some people that were a little bit more open to questions in terms of my providers, or were a little bit more delicate. And this particular time when I saw this doctor, I had gained more weight than I should have. And I wanted to make this video and be like, it doesn't matter how much weight you gain when you have a baby, like it's fine. But then I started reading, and there are some negative health impacts that could apply to you or your baby if you do gain too much weight or not enough weight. So I do understand why they set these guidelines, but I sort of wish that he had been like a little more sensitive, because he was like, you're gaining a lot of weight pretty quickly, so just remember to exercise and eat some fruits and vegetables. And then he left, and I was like, ooh, okay, that was, I guess it's true, but like, he just could have maybe put it a little bit more nicely. Anyway, all that to say that a side note is that when I did have my delivery, I had like my top 3 people or 4 people that I really hope delivered, and the doc that I wanted was on call. So that was great. She was amazing. And it's really, it's really the nurses that are there the whole time with you anyway, but I digress. So anyway, so I gained a lot of weight in my second trimester. That was the trimester I put on the most weight. And then in the third trimester, I gained 15 pounds. So 45 total, and I just, yeah, that was the reality of it. I wasn't too upset about it, really. I just was grateful that the rest of my pregnancy was healthy. My glucose didn't come back too high or out of whack or anything like that. My blood pressure was fine the whole time until I checked into the hospital to have the baby, but that's because I was in a lot of pain and the little cuff was like going off and I was like having really bad contractions. But aside from that, my blood pressure was fine. So I would say that the weight that I gained was the only thing that, like, if you look at my patient portal, that they like were tracking in terms of like, make sure you don't gain too much more weight than this. But me personally, I was okay with how that went. The next expectation versus reality that I want to share is that my expectation was that a few days postpartum, I was still going to look super pregnant, and that was definitely the reality. So I personally believe that social media can kind of be a mess sometimes, but I also believe that lately, in terms of honesty and body positivity, I've seen a change for the better. And instead of people sharing like, this is me with my newborn and I look like this, great, super happy, you know, everything's perfect, 2 weeks later, people are like, here's a picture of me in my mesh underwear, what I look like 2 days postpartum. And you can see that, you know what, like it takes the body a long time to heal sometimes. Not to say there's anything wrong if, you know, you have your baby and 2 weeks later you're feeling great. But I think that that's probably not the reality for many people. And it's nice to see people share some of the less glamorous or maybe more difficult or the more real side of what it looks like right after you have a baby. So I want to share with you a few pictures. So of those 45 pounds that I gained when I got home, this is a picture right here of me. I was 2 days postpartum. When I got home, I'm like, I wonder how much weight I've lost, just out of curiosity. Like, I wasn't upset. I wasn't like, oh, I hope I've lost this much. I was just curious. Of the 45 pounds I gained during pregnancy, I had lost 9 pounds. And I just was like so surprised by that, because I was like, I didn't think I lost all of my baby weight in 2 days, but Penny weighed 8.5 pounds. So I was like, 9 pounds, like, that's remarkable, like crazy to me that the body just changes so slowly and quickly at the same time, I guess. I was just pretty surprised by that. So anyway, when I look at it, I have a few more pictures that I want to show you just to sort of see the progression of how things change in time. And it's not even something where I felt like, I mean, I still looked pretty pregnant for a couple weeks actually, and it was totally normal. It was totally fine. So here is a picture of me when I was a week postpartum. And by this point I had lost 7 more pounds, which is also remarkable to lose 7 pounds in a week. And by 2 weeks postpartum, here's a picture of me 2 weeks postpartum, I had lost 6 more pounds. So that was 13 more pounds in 2 weeks. And I remember at one point in there, and I was really fortunate to have a lot of wonderful women in my life, friends and family, who totally prepared me for the body changes. I heard from several people, like, at some point you're gonna wake up like sweating in your sleep, like these crazy night sweats happen as your hormones adjust, and that happened. And like, I think that was probably part of the time when I lost 13 pounds in 2 weeks. So again, still swollen, still look pregnant here, but my body just continued to change. So I thought it was really fascinating. Also, here is a picture of me 1 month postpartum. I'm down 3 more pounds, and now I'm almost a year postpartum, and I've lost another 11 pounds since that time, since that most recent picture of the 1 month postpartum. So it gets slower. The weight loss for me got slower as I got closer and closer to a year postpartum. And at this point, I'm still, you know, it depends on the day, but like 5 to 10 pounds over my pre-pregnancy weight. And it's not something that I'm worried about. I am anticipating some more weight changes. I'm not sure in which direction, to be truthful. When I wean, I'm still pumping a few times a day. And I've heard one gal who pumped and breastfed for 14 months told me, I did not lose the last 10 pounds until I had weaned. And then I know somebody else was like, I gained 20 pounds when I stopped breastfeeding because, you know, I wasn't burning as many calories. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen. And you know what? We'll just see what happens. I'm not gonna stress myself out about it, but I just thought that the progression is so interesting. I know that this is just my experience, and everybody has a different experience. Some people lose weight really quickly. Some people, it takes a couple years to come off, and some people feel like, you know, it's easier, and some people feel like it's harder. And for me, I feel like I was kind of like in the middle of all of that. But I just wanted to share that expectation versus reality in terms of, yeah, I still looked pregnant for a while, and the weight loss, it took a while. Next, expectation versus reality, and I sort of touched on it already a moment ago with the last one, but that I expected that I would probably lose all of my baby weight by 6 months, and I didn't. And it's totally fine, it's normal, and I'm not upset, I'm not disappointed. I know that sometimes And I'm not really sure why we have this expectation of like, that's what my body was like before. And so I need to get back to that before, that snap back to what it was. And I would say that the main goal that I had for myself and that I still have is that instead of going back to a body that I had before, that I'm just the best version of myself now. Now I haven't arrived at that yet. I still eat really odd times of the day, like I'm hungry from pumping, and so like if I don't eat right before bed, sometimes I wake up starving in the middle of the night. So I'm gonna look forward to maybe eating a little bit healthier and at more normal times when I'm done pumping. So I just want to be the healthiest version of myself and to take care of myself, and that's always, you know, a work in progress. But that was my main focus, is not trying to go back to what I used to look like, but to just make myself the best version. And even not so much looks, but just how I feel, make myself the best version that I can be right now. All right, my next expectation versus reality is that I expected when I went to the doctor and got the all clear at my 6-week visit to start exercising, that I was just gonna like jump right back in. And the reality is that like could not have been further from what actually happened. So the truth is that I was proud of myself for being active during my pregnancy. I worked up until the day I went to the hospital, and I just felt like being up, getting up in the morning, going somewhere, walking was really good. But in terms of actually exercising, like, I didn't do that. Maybe I should have more. And like I said, I was glad that I was active, but in terms of actually like carving out time in the day to exercise, I didn't do that. So it wasn't just, oh, it's been 6 weeks since, you know, you've had the baby and you've been not exercising for 6 weeks. No, it's been like a year that I haven't been exercising or exercising at the full capacity that I was able to, because, you know, as your body starts to change, as you have more weight in your midsection, maybe some of the core exercises and your balance is a little off, like things you used to be able to do, you couldn't do anymore during pregnancy. So it's not just like, let me jump back in from where I was 2 months ago. It's like where I was a year ago. And I remember just like, I've never been like, you know, someone that exercised a ton, but like I used to be able to do like crunches, and just like 6 weeks postpartum, I was definitely not in a place to do that. Just even like laying on my back and just like gently stretching and just like moving my arms around and activating my core, like that was where I had to start. So I would say getting back to my like best level of fitness pre-pregnancy probably took me closer to like 6 to 8 months being comfortable. And I am so glad I didn't force it, because I just could see myself very easily hurting myself. It takes time to heal, and 2 weeks or 6 weeks, like you're gonna know what feels right and what doesn't. And if it doesn't feel right, don't push yourself. I will say like gentle stretching, going for walks, like that was the best thing that I did for months, and I still like doing that. And I'm glad that I'm incorporating a little bit more of a high intensity workout now. Still not as much as maybe I would like, but I'm doing a little bit more now, but I'm glad, so glad that I didn't push it early on. Next expectation versus reality is that once I lose baby weight, all my clothes will fit. And that was not the case. Now, like I mentioned, I'm not back to my pre-pregnancy weight, and maybe I will be and maybe I won't be, and that's okay. But I know, I mentioned it in my last video, this pair of shorts I had. I know that if I lose the last few pounds, I'm still never going to fit in those shorts again, just because my hips are a little bit wider now, my body has changed, and I'm not gonna force myself to try to fit back into something that doesn't fit, that's never gonna fit. And it's just, in my opinion, for myself, it's not healthy, and I don't want to force that on myself. So for the clothing that I didn't fit into, and I don't think I will ever fit into, I donated it. You know what? It's nice to buy yourself some new stuff once in a while anyway. If there were stuff that was like, I think I'm gonna fit into this, I kept that, and we'll see how things are in a few months. But that was eye-opening, just to see how you can lose a lot of weight and things still fit differently because your body shape is different now. That was my experience anyway. So that was definitely an interesting expectation versus reality. The last expectation versus reality is that I thought that it might be difficult to adjust to gaining weight so rapidly. And the truth is that was the reality. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with gaining weight. You know, I feel like I've gained a couple pounds over the last, I don't know, decade and a half, and that's fine. You know, my weight has plateaued, and that's my normal adult weight. I'm not gonna hold myself to some standard and make myself obsess over what I weighed in high school, because I don't need to weigh what I weighed in high school. So weight gain over the years, over time, I think is completely normal, but it was really hard to adjust to gaining weight so quickly. you know, gaining a pound here and there over several years you don't really notice it, but gaining 45 pounds in less than a year and then losing weight so rapidly too, it's just such an adjustment and such a change. So for me, I think the hardest part of gaining so much weight so quickly was that even though I didn't have like swelling in my feet, my ankles, my knees, all of my joints hurt. Even my pelvis, which I guess isn't really a joint, but like that hurt. There was a lot of pressure there and pain, and just walking at the end hurt. I'm really glad that I kept working and I kept walking, because I think staying active was the best thing I could have done for myself, hands down, physically and mentally. And I'm glad I stayed active, but it was just hard at the end. I mean, everything just hurt. I also had an unusual side effect. Maybe it's not that unusual. I wonder if any of you have experienced this, but the outside of my upper right thigh, I felt like numbness and tingling, and my doctor made it sound like it was a normal thing that happens during pregnancy, and really it didn't go away until I had lost most of my baby weight, probably around, and started exercising and stretching more, probably around 7 or 8 months postpartum. So in terms of that, the adjustment was just a little hard for me because it happened so rapidly, and there were a lot of body changes that came along with it. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I hope this information was, you know, useful to you, interesting. This was my experience. I know everyone has different experiences physically and mentally and emotionally during pregnancy and the postpartum time. But the only thing I would say is to just make sure that you're patient with yourself and you take care of yourself, and you know, you rest when you can. I hate it when people said that to me, because I was like, when they're like, sleep when the baby's sleeping, and you're like, oh, what do you think I'm doing? Do you think that I'm like scrubbing my floors? Like, I'm doing my best, okay? But yeah, take care of yourself the best you can. Sleep if you can, drink your water, take your vitamins, and you know, listen to yourself. You'll know if you start exercising and you feel like it's too much, or if you're, you know, trying to do something that doesn't feel right. So anyway, if you have any comments about this, any additional thoughts, any of your own expectations versus realities, advice, anything, I would love to hear them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.